Good morning. Well, I'm just leaving Hay-on-Wye, where I finished walking last August, about 8 months ago. I've just joined the Offa's Dyke path. You can see there the acorn on the post. That's the River Wye down there. And I'm off to a village called Kington today, which is about 14.5 miles away. So I'm having a nice leisurely start. Not doing any big mileages today, probably not tomorrow either. It's one of the main differences from when I was here in August is it's absolutely freezing here today. I think I'm actually going to have to put gloves on because my hands are cold, and I'm going to be carrying trekking poles, so my fingers are already cold. But it's dry, it's calm, and the forecast is to remain dry but cold, so we'll see. Had quite a well, not fraught day yesterday, but my plane from Tenerife, which was supposed to have landed about 5 o'clock-ish a couple of weeks ago, the time was altered by a couple of hours, which meant I landed at 7 o'clock-ish, and there was a delay as well. So all in all, I didn't get to the bed and breakfast I stayed at in Hay last night until gone 9 o'clock. And a good friend of mine picked me up at Bristol Airport and drove me the 2 hours or so to Hay, and we grabbed a quick meal in an Indian restaurant before he drove back home, a couple of hours back home, and a few hours sleep. Now here I am back on the trail. Hopefully, without all the mishaps from last year, I'll be able to get to John O'Groats this time. We shall see. Alright, just a quick update. Been going about an hour, just over an hour. Climbed up out of the valley that you can see in front of you. Hay-on-Wye is down in the valley. In the far background, the mountains you can see are the Black Mountains that I climbed over on the penultimate day of my trip last summer. The path I'm on now, Offa's Dyke path, comes across the top of those mountains, although I didn't actually follow it that time. I came a different way. The early cloud and mist has burnt off, and it's quite nice now. The sun's out. It's a bit hazy. There is still a chill in the air, but it's much better now, really nice. And I'm heading now towards a small village I've forgotten the name of. There's a couple of villages before I get to Kington, but otherwise it's fairly remote countryside, similar to what you can see in front of you now. I've just left the more sort of rural farmland, although this is still farmland. Sort of heading more out into big open hills now. This coming down into this huge valley. Little village down there. I think it's called something like Newbridge or something like that. Passing through there, then heading off up the hills, sort of more or less in the centre of the picture, over to Kington. Done about 6 miles, so I've still got about 8.5 miles to do, but it's not even midday yet, so I can quite happily amble along, taking it all in my stride and enjoying the views, because it really is beautiful now. Though there's still a cold wind, the sun's quite nice, and I've actually had to take my jacket off and change it for a lightweight wind shirt, because I was overheating on the climb. So yeah, everything at the moment seems to be okay. Right, I'm getting towards the end of the day's walk, not too far from Kington now. It's quite cold wind blowing up here. I'm on something that some of you older people might recognise the name of, especially if you were around in the 70s. I remember a musician called Mike Oldfield who produced an album, monstrously famous album called Tubular Bells at one time, and I think it was his follow-up album. It was called Hergest Ridge, and this is where I am now, on Hergest Ridge. It's fantastic scenery all around. Unfortunately the ridge is pretty broad, so the scenery off to one side is a bit obscured at the moment, but that's the Black Mountains in the background, and I've just got more or less to the top of the ridge. I've just got to traverse the top and then descend down into Kington, where I'm going to find a campsite and stay there for the night. But yeah, Hergest Ridge, pretty special place, although I can imagine that in sort of bad weather this would be pretty exposed, because today the wind, okay, there's a fairly stiff breeze, but it's not really a strong wind, and it's pretty cold up here. Yeah, I've probably got 4 or 5 kilometres to go, if that, and then just drop down into Kington. I've just left Kington, where I stayed last night in a campsite. It was extremely cold last night. Had all my clothes on inside my sleeping bag, and still felt chilly. This morning I'm up high now. I've climbed out the valley from Kington, and there's a biting cold wind, more reminiscent of February than April. But what's interesting now is what I assume is the first sight of Offa's Dyke ahead. Offa's Dyke was it's an ancient, I think 8th century earthwork built by King Offa of Mercia, right along the Welshpool. The purpose of it is not entirely clear, but there are sort of thoughts it was a defensive earthwork, but nobody's really 100% sure. The Offa's Dyke path doesn't actually follow the dyke in its entirety. It follows sections of it from time to time, and although I have no actual confirmation that this is Offa's Dyke, I don't have a guidebook. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Some sort of presumably man-made construction. Anyway, I'm heading today for Knighton, which is a similar distance to yesterday, I believe. Yesterday's was about 14.5 miles. The actual path I actually did about 26 kilometres altogether, which is sort of like another couple of miles almost. Yeah, I'm going to see how cold it is when I get to Knighton before deciding whether to find somewhere to camp or whether to leave until this warms up a bit. I wasn't really prepared for these temperatures, although my gear is pretty warm. I've never felt chilly in my sleeping bag like I did last night, and it's a 0 rated sleeping bag, so it just shows how cold it was. Right, about halfway between Kington and Knighton. Forgot for a minute. The scenery today has been really superb. Just to give you a quick panorama from up here, it really is beautiful. Still a strong cold wind though. I've been walking in my down jacket since I started. I put it on at the beginning thinking that I'd take it off when I've warmed up, but I actually don't feel warm enough to take it off yet, so that's how cold it is. I've never ever walked any length of time with a down jacket on before. Perhaps that just says how lucky I've been with the weather, but anyway, about halfway to Knighton, so, and it's before midday, so I can take a fairly easy stroll. It's about 14 miles today, so probably only about 7 miles less to go. Good morning. This is start of day 3, just leaving Knighton. It was day 24 who added to the rest of the walk. Just thought this sign was interesting. I'm just about to put my feet in 2 different countries at the same time. There we are. I'm in England and Wales at the same time. Now I'm off along the river here. Unfortunately, at the moment, can't tell you the name of the river. I'll look it up, put it on the screen at some point. Had a good night in Knighton last night. Decided to book a room. It's the first night. I was absolutely freezing all, well, not all night, but certainly at some point in the early hours it got very, very cold, and despite having a 0 rated sleeping bag and all my clothes on, I still felt cold. So I woke up in the middle of the night, and from then on couldn't get back to sleep. So that was 2 bad nights sleep in a row. And yesterday, like most of the Offa's Dyke appears to be, is very hilly, and I was very slow and sluggish going over the hills. So looked on the internet, found an extremely cheap room, more or less on the Offa's Dyke path in Knighton, above a pub, which I booked and had a good night's sleep. Feel a lot better this morning. I've got quite a hard day ahead. Not sure exactly where I'm stopping, but there's a lot of hills today apparently, so I need to get going. It's about 8 o'clock, freezing cold still. Supposed to be warming up later in the week. Can't happen soon enough as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, it's time to get cracking on. Right, I'm well on my way to a campsite called Mellington Hall, which is between Knighton, which I left this morning, and Montgomery. I don't know whether I'm staying at the campsite or not yet. I'm going to see what time it is when I get to Montgomery, Mellington Hall, and make a decision then, because I know it's probably only about 3 miles, and 3 fairly easy miles from Mellington Hall to Montgomery, and I'm debating whether to have another night in a B&B or whatever, because well, A, it's still incredibly cold and the wind is much stronger today, but also yesterday I struggled quite a bit with the hills, which is not really my thing. I'm normally fine with hills, but I think the night I arrived I had pretty poor sleep and not much of it, only about 4.5 hours, and the night in the tent at Kington I didn't sleep much because of the cold, and I think that, coupled with a bit of dehydration, made me really tired yesterday. So I got the room in the pub, which was really cheap, and really good, and I got a reasonable night's sleep last night. So, and today I feel a lot better. Still not quite got the oomph I usually have in my legs, but I don't know, I'll see. When I get to Mellington Hall I'll make a decision. If I decide I want a further night in a decent bed, then I'll carry on to Montgomery, but otherwise I'll stop at the campsite. Anyway, this path is incredibly steep, and there seems to be like quite a few blowdowns on this, so I'm going to put the camera away. Day 4, or 25 in total. Just left Montgomery, where I spent the night. Unfortunately, the weather is exactly the same. Strong, bitterly cold wind blowing, clear and bright, well, ish, but I just wish this wind would abate. It's just annoying. And it just it's just freezing. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, besides the wind, a new issue has cropped up in the form of a problem with my leg. yesterday on the walk, I felt a little sharp pain in my shin, which I didn't pay much attention to at the time. And as the walk wore on into Montgomery, the pain got worse, and it's been hurting throughout last night and this morning, and I've got a sharp stabbing pain in my left shin. I've started walking, and whilst I can walk on it, I'm conscious of the pain in the shin the whole time. If it stays as it is, then hopefully I'll be alright, but if it should get any worse, I'm not sure. It's definitely not shin splints, it's something else. I'm hoping it's just muscular. But in the area that it is, it's round sort of the shin bone, which could be a problem. Anyway, I'm heading towards Oswestry today, in that sort of direction, and then the following day I do my last day on the Offa's Dyke path, heading towards Chirk, where I'm being picked up, I think, by a relative, and I'm going to spend at least a day off where's my uncle at his house, at his house in North Wales. So if I can get there first, then perhaps we can sort of attend to any problems that hopefully aren't going to be too too problematic. Anyway, after yesterday's 21-mile up and downer, some of the ups were insanely steep yesterday. Today's a more level affair. There is a climb at some point in the middle of the walk, but a lot of it is on level ground. You see in the background there, it's just fields, and I think there's some canal walking later on as well. So I'm hoping for not too tough a day today. Just thought I'd show you this amazing sight. These incredible trees. They're coast redwoods. They're absolutely gigantic. The sun was shining on them a minute ago. Unfortunately it's gone in, and it showed, the sun showed how red they were, but they're just incredible. They're coast redwoods. The sequoias, Sequoia sempervirens. They were planted in 1857 according to this. The tallest trees in 2015 had grown to 41 metres in height. Incredible. What a sight. It's just awesome. Yeah, well worth the detour to see this. I'm actually not on the Offa's Dyke path at the moment. Offa's Dyke is just above me. I'm keeping lower down, save climbing over a pretty steep hill. I'm glad I did. This is just incredible.